Part 64. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuladin Chigwa. Chapter 634. I suspect that my colleague is the murderer. As Chi Shan opened his mouth, the green-gray female ghost on the side clearly shrank her pupils, showing a slightly frightened expression. How dare you live together if you know the other person is a murderer? Is this not afraid of death? Isn't he afraid that the other party will take advantage of his sleep to cut open his stomach and remove his organs without waking up? As if aware of the female ghost's gaze, Chi Shan smiled bitterly and said, "This is just suspicion, and if he is really a murderer in disguise, then I don't dare to change the dormitory casually, otherwise a murderer with a sensitive identity like this will be killed once I meet him. If there is any trouble, I will be the first to be killed. I don't have the guts to face the murderer head-on." The female ghost felt the same way. Indeed, I heard that the murderer is quite strong. Once, the vice dean successfully grabbed the opponent, but he still escaped smoothly. It is basically certain that the murderer has abyss-level terror level. At the 10th level, the difficulty has reached such a level. I suspect that this supernatural game will not give me a chance to pass the level. And by the last few levels, the difficulty is no longer divided according to the user's terror level. I want to pass it in one go. 12 levels cannot be achieved without the top ghost king. While listening, Chi Shan looked at the female ghost strangely. Isn't this a simple truth? Could it be that this female ghost just wants to understand? There is no such thing as a free lunch in the world. As a businessman, the last thing he believes in is a good thing like pie in the sky. Even if there is such a thing, the price that will be paid in the future is absolutely unimaginable. Certainly not nothing. The time Shen Jian saved him was undoubtedly a piece of cake. Because of this, he chose to spend huge sums of money to help build the building based on Shen Jian's verbal promise without knowing the details of Shen Jian at all. City God's Temple. And the facts can also prove how wise and powerful his decision was at that time. The other side. Shen Jian asked with great interest, "Where is that person now?" Regardless of whether it is true or not, I would rather kill someone by mistake than let one go. The worst case scenario is to capture them and rush into the underworld team. He won't lose anyway. I didn't dare to check. Chi Shan said with a smile. He is still afraid of death. Ever since he knew that his new colleague might be a murderer in disguise, he had been pretending to be confused and continued to act like a normal person, but he did not dare to investigate anything about the murderer. It is because he is afraid of being discovered and makes the other party think that he is beginning to doubt his identity, so he chooses to kill and silence him. I only know that he works the night shift. As for which area he is responsible for, I don't know. And whether he is working or taking advantage of this time to kill people, no one is sure. After all, he can disguise himself. People have seen his true face. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Before, he might have had no choice but to rely on luck to find it, but now, he has a simpler idea. The next second, the heavy body shape disappeared in place. Soon, when Shen Jian appeared again, he already had a parchment scroll in his hand. Ah! Great and holy! The black writing appeared very quickly, but Shen Jian ruthlessly interrupted the parchment to compliment him. He handed the parchment to Chi Shan. "You use him." Chi Shan? Looking at the pure sheepskin scroll in his hand, he was shocked. He still vividly remembers the murderous incident involving a precognitive ghost some time ago. According to what he observed on the chat interface, the body of this precognitive ghost seemed to be a piece of parchment. Is it possible? This is it? His pupils shrank sharply and his heartbeat began to accelerate. This was the terrifying existence that caused the desolation of Nanjing district and was known as the Black Death. Once written, it was equivalent to being sentenced to death. Now, This terrifying and unusual ghost just stayed in his hands so quietly. An expert is worthy of being an expert. At that time, he thought he had not found the ghost, but he did not expect that he had already subdued it. I don't know if the master is married, but he has 2 biological daughters. Just thinking about it. There was a change on the parchment. Black handwriting began to be written quickly. My name is Chi Shan. When you see the sentence, I shouldn't die. Just now, I began to dream of becoming the father-in-law of a master, superior to him by a generation. If the master is willing, one of my 2 daughters will marry the other. Even if I marry both of them, if the daughter has no objection, it's also acceptable. In order to repay the favor, I decided to do whatever it takes. Chi Shan. He was stunned when he saw these 3 lines. I'll hum you. Damn it, why did you write down what was in my heart? Am I so unscrupulous? The reason why the words from the heart are the words from the heart is that no one will know except yourself. If this is written down, can it still be regarded as the words from the heart? Does it still count if you write down your inner thoughts? Kishan's thick skin has been honed over many years of doing business, but he couldn't stand it at this moment. He can kneel down and lick it, but you can't say it when you're riding a horse. Shenjian. Female ghost. The green-gray female ghost looked at the middle-aged security guard with disdain. She was so unruly. He was actually willing to let his 2 daughters serve the same husband. Of course, I will definitely not admit this. On the parchment, words continued to emerge. Shenjian glanced at the parchment faintly. Parchment's foreknowledge encompasses various aspects. It can be compressed or described in detail. If there are no restrictions, the parchment can even write down everything the user has done, said, and thought about in the future from now on. Of course, this makes no sense. He just needs to find the killer. Following Shenjian's casual glance, the parchment suddenly shook. The writing stopped. Then quickly dissipated. Instead, there is brand new content. I complied with his request and started looking for traces of the murderer. It suddenly occurred to me that the murderer's crimes were concentrated in empty teaching buildings with not many people, and the victims were all lone students and couples who came to the field. Based on this idea, I thought of a place. The dating grove on the hill behind the school perfectly meets the 2 characteristics of having few people and being secluded. Luckily, I found it. Unfortunately, I saw my colleague fighting with a female ghost. The supernatural aftermath of the fight was too much for me to bear. I fell into the trap, triggering the killer's killing pattern left on the roadside. I'm about to die, but fortunately, he's by my side. The black writing stops here. Chi Shan also recovered from the shock. Looking at the description of his future, he couldn't help but take a breath. What an incredible supernatural being. How is this different from predicting the future? Wrong. This is predicting the future. As long as this parchment has no bad intentions, is dedicated to helping, and does not set traps in the words, then this will definitely be the most heaven-defying supernatural ability in history. If he could control this supernatural power, he could use God's perspective and unparalleled ability in the dungeon to clear the dungeon on his own. This is the most valuable way he can imagine. Parchment. My name is Chi Shan, and I actually want to control the Great Lord Parchment. I must have had some rebellious intentions and want to snatch the parchment from his hands. After all, people die for money, and birds die for food. Damn it! Chi Shan. See the text above. His eyes suddenly widened. Damn it! I didn't, so don't talk nonsense. I'm just a little reluctant to give up. And controlling a powerful ghost like parchment was simply unthinkable at his level. On this parchment, the fool actually wrote false content to deceive him. I just thought about how to control it. So stingy. To this. Shenjian simply ignored it. Focus on the clues. Do you know where the small woods behind the school are? He asked. I know, that place isn't very healthy. The gray female ghost whispered. Then let's go and catch him directly. I want to clear this supernatural game tonight. Shen Jian turned and left. The parchment gave two messages. One is the trace of the killer. The second is the identity of the murderer. As Qi Shan said, the murderer is disguised as his colleague. As for the female ghost fighting the murderer, yes, there are also those who grab monsters. If you don't hurry up, you'll be robbed of the first kill. Think of this. Shen Jian moved faster. Soon. In the dark woods, waves of supernatural waves swept around. This caused the lovers who came to the grove to flee. When Shen Jian came here, Qi Shan and the gray female ghost's expressions immediately changed. What a terrifying supernatural threat, abyss level. Both sides are abyss level ghost kings. Who is the abyss level ghost king who fights the murderer? There are not many abyss level ghosts in Scarlet University. The two of them exclaimed. Abyss level ghost king, this is definitely not a student. Among the instructors, there are only 3 or 4 abyss level ghost kings, and they are all senior leaders above the teaching director. If traces of the murderer are discovered, shouldn't it be a group fight? How could it be that they were fighting alone, with no distinction between superior and inferior? Could it be that they bumped into each other by chance? Think of this possibility. The two of them looked at Shen Jian at the same time. Because the only one who can intervene in the battle between the abyss-level ghost kings is Shen Jian. They see it clearly. The murderer should have just been promoted to the abyss level. The yin qi of the abyss level female ghost king she was fighting against did not reach the abyss level standard. She had to use other powers to explode into abyss level supernatural strength. The longer the fight lasts, the more obvious the decline becomes. This is the right time to take action. The other side. Shen Jian also took note of the situation. The eyes are a little weird. Qi Shan and the other two could not clearly see the situation at the scene and could only judge the situation of the battle by sensing the fluctuations of yin qi. But he was different. He could see clearly even from 1,000 meters away. He discovered that the appearance of the abyss-level female ghost king who fought against the murderer was somewhat similar to the beautiful woman Suji. Shen Jian suddenly thought of the sister Suji mentioned not long ago. Could this abyss-level female ghost king be Suji's sister? In other words, the protagonist's aunt. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 635. In the woods. The two figures spread the supernatural force wantonly, and the terrifying supernatural threat swept the entire place. No ghost dared to stay within a radius of 500 meters for a long time, and they all fled in all directions. In a battle between two abyss-level ghost kings, unless the two sides decide the winner or the stronger side forcibly intervenes, no means can stop the two who are fighting with real fire. A tall figure with a hideous face was wearing 1, 2, and 3 layers of leather hoods. Every time he was attacked by a fatal supernatural attack, the human skin hood would automatically fall off. The third level means that he has suffered 3 fatal threats. At the same time, he is also Qi Shan's bedmate and the murderer who needs to be killed in the 10th level of the supernatural game app. Another figure has a tall figure, delicate facial features, and a face so tender that it can squeeze water. He is wearing a black uniform and square black-rimmed glasses. His long and plump legs are wrapped in stockings. His expression is cold and arrogant, giving people an ultimate cold feeling. At this time, the female ghost king's eyes turned blood red, and the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly, especially her ankles, which were covered with a thick layer of ice and filled with an astonishing cold air. The murderer became more and more frightened as he fought. Damn it! What on earth is going on with this woman? The more you play, the better your condition will be. The terror level has also jumped from Ghost King to Abyss level, and is now on the same level as him. Whenever he was about to get close, the cold air around him would force him back. With no other option, he could only use the ability of the Ghost Claw to attack from a distance. That's enough, you lunatic. Even though you are a ghost, you use your supernatural power like this. When the ice spreads to your whole body, you will still die. I haven't done anything yet. Why are you pestering me? The murderer cursed loudly. I just feel unlucky. I originally planned to come to the grove to randomly pick a couple to hang out with, but as soon as I succeeded, I met this crazy woman who was just passing by. So it became what it is now. You can't hurt me, and I can't hurt you, so why should we? The murderer threw out a ghostly bone claw, which was blocked by the ice. The woman spread the ice and was also shaken away by him. Their level of terror is the same. No one can do anything to anyone. Delaying it would only be detrimental to him. Because of this, this mad woman intercepted him at all costs. As long as he was stopped until the other Abyss-level Ghost Kings from Scarlet University arrived, he would not be able to escape. The murderer quickly understood the woman's thoughts. More urgent. At this time, an anxious voice sounded. Don't do anything yet, don't fight. There was urgency in Shen Jian's voice, and he ran over quickly, seemingly ready to break up the fight. See this. The murderer was stunned at first, and then overjoyed. These days, are there any ghosts who dare to come to the battlefield between their two Abyss-level Ghost Kings to break up the fight? So tough? He likes. This young man will be the key to overturning the situation of the battle. The murderer is ecstatic. He is still in Scarlet University at this time, and he is so young. What else can he be besides being a student? And that crazy woman looked like a mentor at first glance. As long as he captures Shen Jian, he can use him as a hostage and escape from here. Until then, with his peak supernatural disguise, no one can find him. After, he can slowly collect information and seek revenge on this madwoman. Think of this. He immediately changed the target of his attack. The female Ghost King saw this. Len Ao's expression couldn't help but twist. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, "Classmate, get out of here." Apparently, the intervention of Shen Jian, an outsider, disrupted her rhythm. Although Shen Jian came here with good intentions to break up the fight, he was obviously doing bad things with good intentions. If this murderer was allowed to escape, there was no telling how many people would be killed. However, Shen Jian turned a deaf ear. He hated him for not fighting and said, stop fighting, you can't kill someone like this. I've finished a bucket of popcorn, and you guys are still fighting. You're tired of watching the show. Female Ghost King. Murderer. Hearing this voice filled with resentment and a hint of disgust, both of their movements froze. Damn it! You came here just to tell us this? Shouldn't you break up the fight? Do you dare to ride on the horse because you dislike us trying to defend each other? The fight was unremarkable, like elementary school students fighting each other, you coming and going. I really thought you didn't understand the situation clearly and came here to break up the fight. Etc. It's not strange to come to break up a fight, it's just that people are stupid. It seems even weirder to come to them and tell them, you can't kill anyone if you beat me like this. How does your brain circuit grow? At this time, both of them were confused by Shen Jian, and their eyes were a little strange. But soon, the murderer reacted. Regardless of whether this young man has a brilliant mind or not, his goal is to capture the opponent and act as a hostage. A fool is better, at least he will not resist. Just thinking about it? The murderer suddenly saw that Shen Jian took out a giant ghost sickle from his body. A casual wave. A black sickle wrapped in yin qi shot towards the murderer. At the same time, he smiled and said, Look at me, this is the only way to kill someone. The words fell. The black scythe slashed open the left half of the murderer's body with lightning speed, and the ghost blood was thrown into the sky. This moment, the whole audience was stunned. The female ghost king's pupils dilated little by little, with a look of disbelief on her cold and proud face. An abyss-level ghost king was dismembered like this. Just kidding. How could such a strong student come from Scarlet University? I'm afraid that even if their dean takes action, he won't be able to achieve such an effect. Who is this man? While the female ghost king was in shock, the murderer, who had the left half of his body dismembered, looked at his missing left arm, left leg, left waist, and left head with a stiff face, feeling confused in his heart. No. Do you have such ability? How can this be? There are only a limited number of top ghost kings in Wutong City, and he may not necessarily know them all, but he knows that there is absolutely no such young one among them, and there is no top ghost king who uses a sickle-shaped ghost weapon. Where did you come from? You, who are you? What do you want to do? The murderer panicked. With that slash just now, he knew that Shen Jian was showing mercy. Otherwise, if you chop it towards his head or the center of his body, he will definitely die immediately, instead of having a chance to recover like he does now. Shen Jian put away his sickle. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. It's not good to hurt Heki. If you have any conflicts, I will help you solve them. Let's do this. I will kill anyone at random, so that no matter what conflicts you have, you can resolve them." Female Ghost King? Murderer? The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. If God kills one, the conflict will be resolved. Your grandma is really a genius in the world of understanding. Without you, the evil ways will last forever like a long night. You have taken all the bamboo shoots on the mountain. The murderer wanted to cry but had no tears. First he met a female madman, and now he met an even crazier madman. Ghosts are born with misfortune. The murderer, who sensed that something was wrong with him, had a look of resentment in his eyes, but he could only force a smile, otherwise how could he reason with this dog if he stabbed him again? Then, the murderer forced a smile and said, "Brother, kill that crazy woman. She was the one who attacked me first. If you kill her, there will be no conflict between us. Hear this." Shen Jian walked over with strange eyes. "What do you think you look like? That's definitely not as handsome as you, brother. Among all the people of the same kind that I have killed, and seen, brother, you are also the undisputed number one." The murderer licked his face and said, "That's right. Although you have flaws everywhere and look terrible, your advantage is still very obvious, and that is that you have a good vision." Murderer. What the hell, you don't even use circumlocutions when swearing. But I endure it. Yes, yes, brother, it's whatever you say, but what does this have to do with brother, you killed this crazy woman. The murderer pointed at the guarded female ghost king, and his tone became sinister. Haven't you heard that sentence? Ugly people tend to cause mischief, so it must be you who provoked the conflict. If I kill you, the conflict will be resolved. Shen Jian grinned. The malice on his face was very strong. The next second, the murderer's limbs were dismembered. Murderer. Grass. You humming tricked me. Why do ugly people often cause mischief? Just say that you are a naughty dog and you don't want to see me alive as an ugly bitch. I'll hum you. The murderer cursed loudly. Even if there was only one head left, he would still say one thing to this lunatic: "What a piece of shit." To this, Shen Jian didn't care. Waved. Far away, two figures ran over. It was Qi Shan and the gray female ghost. At this time, both of their eyes were filled with shock. Qi Shan knew that Shen Jian was suspected of being the city god of the underworld, but it was unconfirmed news after all. However, now this sword dismembered the abyss-level Ghost King and crushed him, but it was real. Anyone who came to such a scene would have to shout 666. The gray female ghost's reaction was even stronger. She only knew that Shen Jian was very mysterious and could save her from two ghost angels, but after all, they were just two ghost kings. But now this murderer is an abyss-level ghost who has caused riots in Scarlet University and can escape from the hands of the Vice Dean. However, even such a ferocious evil spirit was dismembered into several pieces without any resistance. How powerful is this person? Thinking. Shen Jian said, "This is specially reserved for you. Kill him and clear the supernatural game as soon as possible." Hear this. The gray female ghost swallowed her saliva and nodded. In full view of the public, he dismembered the murderer's head with split eyes. A ding-dong sound. A notification tone sounded on the green-gray female ghost's cell phone. She picked it up and looked at it. He said excitedly, "Brother, the app prompted me that the murderer is dead and the task of the 10th level is completed." "Very good, let's see what the mission of level 11 is." Shen Jian was very satisfied. He is very satisfied with this progress. If this trend continues, he will be able to speed up the supernatural game tonight, uncover the judge of the Yin Cao organization hiding in Scarlet University, and find the headquarters of the Yin Cao organization. During this process, you can also complete a plot mission. You can also harvest a wave of moneyless ghosts. Perfect. At this time, a cold voice came. The female ghost king looked at the green and gray female ghost. "Can you tell me what happened? You are a student I taught. You came to me and said some inexplicable words a few days ago. I was about to go find you. Also, who is he?" The words fell. The female ghost king suddenly looked at Shen Jian again. There were 3 parts of gratitude, 3 parts of fear, and 4 parts of confusion in his eyes. For Shen Jian, her senses are very complex. "I originally thought that this was a student with good intentions who did bad things, but I didn't expect that the other student suddenly changed his mind and killed the abyss-level Ghost King with one strike. With this strength, he was one of the top students in the entire Scarlet University. When did such a young and mysterious Ghost King appear in Wutong City?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 636. Hear sounds. Only then did the others remember that besides them, there was another abyss-level ghost king. Shen Jian looked around. At this time, the female ghost king had already walked over, with an astonishingly low temperature on her body, especially the ice on her ankles, which seemed to have penetrated deep into the blood and would not melt for a long time. Looking at her up close, her brows look even more like Suji's. He could basically conclude that this OL female tutor wearing a black uniform, black square eyes, and stockings was the sister mentioned by the ghost Dr. Suji, who was also the protagonist's aunt. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Ghost Tutor Suro. Level, Ghost King. Introduction: the protagonist, Aunt Lin Yan, is an ideological and political tutor at Scarlet University. She is known as the most beautiful teacher because her life was too boring. She began to study psychology by herself through one-on-one tutoring with students. She verified the theory and secretly became a psychology expert. Pretending to be the standard is extremely high, but the ideological and moral level is extremely low. Current status: alert, serious, observing, evaluating. Favorability: 35, friendly. See the introduction on the favorability panel. Shen Jian looked a little strange. The protagonist's aunt is the Ghost King, and he knows it well. The so-called Abyss-level Ghost King's strength is nothing more than the supernatural strength that is unleashed by the threat of death at any cost. Logically speaking, this person should be a kind-hearted person who can be called a saint among ghosts. But looking at it now, it doesn't seem to be the case. There must be good intentions. But this does not seem to prevent the other party from being low-cultivated. Especially this extremely low level of ideological and rationale evaluation was the first time he had seen it. Isn't this woman an ideological and political instructor? Teachers who teach ideological and moral education do not have high moral quality themselves. Shen Jian resisted the thought of complaining. There was some interest in his eyes. He really wanted to know how a woman who could be evaluated as having extremely low morals and thoughts would behave. To know. Among the evil ghosts he had seen, none had received such an evaluation. Most of them were directly evaluated as evil ghosts. This was the first time he had seen such a type that was not between good ghosts, normal ghosts, bad ghosts, and evil ghosts. Thinking. Ghost instructor Suro opened her mouth and said, "Can you tell me what happened? You must have something to say to me at that time, but for some reason, you couldn't say it? Is it related to this murderer?" Her voice was clear and cold, but it didn't have the indifference of not being close to strangers. Instead, it was like a ray of cool breeze in summer, neither intimidating nor overly approachable. Guide, mentor. Hear sounds. The gray female ghost was a little helpless. She really didn't expect that because of what she said to her mentor a few days ago, the mentor with the title of the most beautiful mentor would come to look for her. A conflict broke out with the murderer. She subconsciously looked at Shen Jian, wanting to seek help from him. This change. Naturally, she couldn't escape Suro's gaze. She pushed up the black-framed glasses on the bridge of her nose, her beautiful eyes moved slightly, and her gaze fell on Shen Jian. This man looked at her with a bit of curiosity, as if he knew her. Wrong. She was certain that she had never seen this man, not even accidentally. After all, she is a psychology expert and has developed the subconscious reaction of observing all passers-by when walking on the road. It is impossible for her to be unimpressed by this man's outstanding appearance. In this case, it means that she has seen someone who looks similar to her. "Do you know your sister?" she mused. The other side. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. Think about it. She is also a party involved, so it doesn't matter if she talks about it. Not long after, the gray female ghost told the story of the cause and effect. Ghost instructor Suro had a stern look on her face and didn't know what she was thinking. She has also heard of the supernatural game app, but she has never thought that the task of this app is actually related to her. If someone gets the task of killing her again, she will not tire of it. It is also impossible to remain in combat mode all the time. If this continues for many years, the ghost will collapse. Soon. She understood the seriousness of the matter. She will not be able to live in peace unless the person behind this supernatural game is solved. Then, Ghost Instructor Suro asked, "What is the mission of this 11th level?" The green-gray female ghost replied, "It is to create a new terror. The evaluation criterion is the murderer. According to the task instructions, at least 1/3 of the people in the school need to know his terrifying name." Hear this. Suro frowned. After killing the murderer, we need to replace it and become a new ghost story. After that, will other people receive the task of killing us to continue all this? This supernatural game, in Matryoshka. She quickly understood the repetitive nature of the task. As long as the supernatural games continue, new ghost stories will continue to emerge in Scarlet University, and the entire school will become a place where ghost stories are nurtured until there is no one at all. Hear the analysis. Kishin, the gray female ghost, also understood the seriousness of the matter. I also think this is a way for supernatural games to prevent them from passing the level. Once they complete this task, they will become a terrifying existence comparable to a murderer, setting off a new round of fear in the school until subsequent participants find them, kill them, and inherit the name of this weird story. What goes around comes around. If they don't want to die, they can only kill other game participants repeatedly. Till the end. It's not that they become the strongest monsters. It is to attract public anger and be destroyed by humanity. If they give up the mission now, they will also die. It can be said. Once the supernatural game begins, what will eventually come is either death or complete madness. Think of this. The green-gray female ghost's face was full of horror. Endless regret arose in my heart. At first, she was just playing for fun, but she didn't expect that the price she would have to pay in the end would be so high. What are you afraid of? Kill the person behind it and everything will be over. Just when the atmosphere was frozen, Shen Jian grinned. There was a bit of excitement in his eyes. This 11th level is even simpler. He can't wait to find the judge hidden in Scarlet University, thereby finding out the true headquarters of the Yin Cao organization, and then becoming the master of the Yin Cao palace. Seeing Shen Jian's attitude, the gray female ghost nodded, feeling relieved. With Shen Jian here, she felt very safe. Even if she failed to complete the task, she would have to experience the pain of being trapped in the soul again, and she wouldn't die anyway. Teacher, I have caused trouble for you today. I will apologize to you another day. The green-gray female ghost looked at the ghost instructor Suro and apologized. If it hadn't been for her, the mentor wouldn't have gone to her at this time, and he wouldn't have met the murderer, nor would he have been injured, causing the yin qi to fluctuate, which was a sign that the injury was serious enough. As ghosts, they are the controllers of supernatural beings, but this does not mean that they will not be harmed by supernatural beings. The ice on their mentor's ankles that cannot be melted is the most direct proof. By the way, mentor, you can go to Sue's medical center. There is a good doctor there who can definitely cure you. Speaking of which, the gray female ghost was suddenly startled. She looked at the ghost tutor's face that made her feel ashamed, and muttered, "Why do you feel that, tutor? You are a bit similar to that Dr. Sue. Brother, do you feel this way?" Seemingly unsure, she turned around and asked Shen Jian. At this time, Suro looked strangely and said, "What? This gentleman is very familiar with that Dr. Sue." "Of course, teacher, I live in the medical center. He should be Dr. Sue's family." "Haha, I live in a hospital, my family, that's how it is." Suro raised the corners of her mouth and looked at Shen Jian with an even weirder look. "It's like I discovered something interesting. Okay, I understand. I will go to Sue's medical center to have a look. As for this supernatural game, I will also report it to the dean. You don't need to be under so much pressure. Scarlet University will solve all this. Say it." Ghost instructor Suro turned and left. Before leaving, she paused. Turning to look at Shen Jian, "I don't think I have formally introduced myself yet. My name is Suro, and I am the ideological and political instructor here. If you are interested, you can come and observe my class. Goodbye." Speaking of which, her lips closed. Then it opened again, this time, there was no sound. But Shen Jian could still tell that these two words seemed to be brother-in-law. "It's just a question." Shen Jian. Watching the bespectacled teacher dressed as an urban beauty leave, the interest in Shen Jian's eyes became even brighter. After watching it for so long, he didn't realize how low the protagonist's aunt's ideological and moral standards were. Whether it is conversation or thinking ability, it is first-rate clarity. And he has a very strong temperament as a mentor. Dignified, elegant, and with a pretty face so delicate that even women would envy him, he is truly known as the most beautiful mentor. It can be said that this is a nearly perfect woman. Thinking. Shen Jian quickly narrowed his eyes. Put your focus back on the mission of the paranormal game. Qi Shan said, Master, the task of this 11th level does not seem difficult, but how to let 1/3 of the students in the school know it in a short time is the problem. You can't start a live broadcast, right? Or should I say we need to use the power of Scarlet University to start from the radio station. If you want to spread your fame in a short time, there is no other way except live broadcast and radio. Fortunately, this is a copy of the modern background. If it were replaced with an ancient background, it would be really ruined. It's not that troublesome. Shen Jian waved his hand. His eyes fell on the parchment. In terms of speed of transmission, who else is more suitable than parchment? See this. Qi Shan also understood Shen Jian's plan. But he hesitated and said, Master, I remember that the supernatural power of this parchment is only prediction, and it does not mean that it can kill people by writing it. However, it is forbidden to use it inside Scarlet University. Even if it is parchment, it may not be able to play its role. Shen Jian looked at each other as if he were a fool. The corner of his mouth grinned. I kill people, and the parchment predicts it, but the effect is not the same. You don't think this weird story is parchment, do you? The biggest weird story in this school is me. Qi Shan. Don't be like this, I'm scared too. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 637. Night Falls. Scarlet University. Because of the battle between the two Abyss-level Ghost Kings, students throughout the school began to flee and gathered in the dormitory building. In a teaching building, a trainee teacher dressed as a faculty member stood on the top floor, looking towards the woods behind the mountain with some palpitations. At this time, dense black writing suddenly appeared on the teaching manual in his arms. It was as if there was an invisible ghost holding a black pen and writing on the pages of his book. My name is Teacher Ghost. When you see the sentence, I am already dead. Seeing this line of words, he was stunned on the spot dressed as a faculty member. His pupils shrank violently. Feeling completely horrified. Someone launched a supernatural attack on him. But where is the enemy? Why didn't he notice anything? Didn't even see the enemy? What is this, a prank? Without hesitation, the teacher ghost destroyed the manual in his hand. The next second, on another textbook, the same black writing also appeared. I work as a trainee teacher at Scarlet University, but no one knows that my true identity is actually a ghostly messenger of the Yin Cao organization. I am in this school to cooperate with the Yin Cao judge, but our identities are not exposed to each other. I haven't been exposed either. Teacher Ghost. I am your uncle. See this. He was going crazy. The owner of this black handwriting actually knew his true identity and wrote it out so arrogantly. Where exactly was his identity exposed? What is the owner of this black writing planning to do? Could it be that you want to threaten him? Just thinking about it? Little did I know. Everyone in the entire Scarlet University saw this line of black writing at the same time. Some appear in notebooks, some are on walls, and some are written on clothes. But without exception, everyone knew that there was an undercover agent of a sinister organization in their school, who was also a trainee teacher. And it seems a bit silly. It's not that you haven't been exposed yet, your underwear has been stripped clean. They looked at this live broadcast with curiosity. Today, a big event happened at Scarlet University. There was a battle between two Abyss-level Ghost Kings. One side seemed to be a murderer hidden in the school, and the other side was a female mentor. I have no interest in knowing about this kind of thing. Before Judge Yin Cao issues an order, my task is to lurk, and then take the opportunity to select those suitable to participate in the supernatural game, and send them the invitation code, so that they can step into the abyss. For this reason, maintaining my status as a trainee teacher is the most important thing. I plan to follow the others to seek refuge. Not long after, I met a student. The other person had a strange shape, with a red hemp rope tied around his wrist. He told me that there was something wrong with this teaching building. No matter how he ran, he would eventually come back here, like a Mobius strip. The cycle is endless. I scoff at that. But soon I realized something was wrong. I failed to go downstairs smoothly, but wandered in the stairwell on the top floor. I encountered a supernatural incident and fell into a ghost beating the wall. I panicked. Being able to trap a ghost king like me means that the supernatural strength of the ghost wall has exceeded the ghost king level. I tried to find exits from other directions, but without exception, these places were shrouded in ghost walls and it was impossible to get out. At this time, I thought of the previous male student and wanted to ask what happened. I've been waiting for a long time. Finally, I saw that student appear again, and just like last time, he told me that there was something strange about this place, like an endless loop like a Mobius strip. At this moment, I thought of a possible speculation. This place is not a ghost wall, but a ghost realm restarting. Every once in a while, time will flow back, leaving people in the ghost realm trapped in the restart cycle. This process is repeated day after day. I stopped the student and prepared to ask him what exactly was going on. The black writing stopped abruptly when it was written here. Teacher Gui's heart trembled. This. Is this precognitive content recorded from his first-person perspective? Is he trapped? How can this be? Think of this. The teacher ghost didn't hesitate and rushed downstairs. 3 seconds later. He was obviously going down, but inexplicably returned to the upper level. It is exactly the same as what is shown on the precognitive text. He was confused. What happened in front of him was beyond his expectation. He didn't even know when he was attacked. Thinking. As shown in the foreknowledge content. There was a sound of footsteps. A student with black hair, black eyes, handsome features, a blood-stained hemp rope wrapped around his wrist, and 7 scarlet ghost eyes on the back of his hand ran down. He spoke first and said, "Classmate, what is going on in this teaching building? You also discovered the problem here? Great, come with me. I may know the loophole here, but we need to do it as soon as possible, otherwise it will be too late." The words fell. The teacher ghost saw the student pulling him towards the toilet in the distance. He didn't doubt it either. Because according to his guess, this is not a ghost hitting the wall, but a ghost realm restarting. Once the restart time is triggered, everything will start over for them. And he also knew that the student failed. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run in front of him several times in a row. But that's okay. Just let him know the information and he can figure out a solution on his own. With this thought, the classroom ghost followed the students in front. At the same time, predictive words appeared again in the textbook manual in his hand. The teacher was shocked. Look immediately. Although it is unclear where this precognition comes from, it is obviously his only reliance so far. He can use precognition to judge in advance whether there is any danger ahead. This time, I chose to go with that student. Walking on the road, I suddenly thought of a question. This teaching building is not far from the grove. Logically speaking, the students have already evacuated. After all, the supernatural threat of the abyss-level Ghost King is not enough for a group of Xingyi and Red-level students. Is undoubtedly an unbearable oppression. Then who is this student? And why did he run down from the top floor? The floor I am on is already the highest, and there is no way to go up to the next floor. How did the student run down? I started to realize something was wrong. But just when I was about to run away, he showed his fangs. It was also at this time that I realized that the person in front of me was not a student at all, but a strange story about this school. He named this teaching building a slaughterhouse and tricked unsuspecting people into leaving with him. In fact, he was killing people. Please go to the restaurant and share it. And I have triggered his murderous pattern. Because when I accepted his invitation, it triggered his eating pattern, which was equivalent to voluntarily becoming his food. I'm being targeted. See this. Teachers are like ghosts falling into an ice cave. I just felt like the blood all over my body was frozen. A grimace solidified, revealing an extreme fear. When he looked at the students in front again, it was obvious that there were traces of blood all over the student's body, as if he had dismembered other people before meeting him, and the sky was stained with blood. The smell of blood on his body is also extremely strong. Unbelievable. This man is not a student here at all, nor a survivor trapped here, but a slaughterer and a hunter. He is the prey now. At once, his steps stopped subconsciously, looking ahead with a horrified expression. At this time, the students in front also slowly turned around. Jajaja, it was exposed. Shenjian grinned. There was a weird smile on his face. He stared at the teacher ghost in front of him and smiled sadly. Little brother, do you like your heart? The faint sound of words came. The teacher ghost was even more frightened. It's over. It really triggered the opponent's killing pattern. Beings that can use the ghost realm to restart are definitely not something he, a ghost king level ghost envoy, can deal with. See this. He nodded desperately. The ghost heart is the sustenance of the supernatural being. Without the ghost heart, the supernatural power of the body will be reduced by at least 70%. This question is nonsense. Who doesn't need his own heart? He, I like it too. Shenjian's tone was strange. The big hand of cattail leaf fan is stretched out, reaching directly into the teacher ghost's chest. A beating heart was removed. Teacher ghost. Damn you, that's what you meant when you said you liked it? Too shameless. If you do this, are you not giving others a chance at all? Say it's annoying and you'll definitely take away someone's heart. Say you like it, say I like it too when you step on the horse, and then take it away too. No matter what I say, you will win. Too cheap. The teacher's ghostly eyes were about to burst, and his face was ferocious and twisted. He knew that if he didn't resist, he would have no chance. Immediately, he roared, so do you like your kidney? He was asking Shenjian rhetorically. If Shenjian said he liked it too, then he would just take away Shenjian's kidneys and exchange one kidney for one heart. It was fair. Hear this. Shenjian looked strangely and said, what? Don't you like your kidney? Then I'll take it out for you too. Say it. Shenjian stretched out his hand again. 2 kidneys fell into the hand. Teacher ghost. His eyes widened. The whole ghost was confused. No. Can it still be like this? God really doesn't like it, your logic is unbeatable. No matter what others ask, you can find the answer that is best for you. Cheating. Who taught you to use supernatural powers like this? It's too silly. You. The teacher ghost looked horrified. Subconsciously, he ran away behind him. However, the faint voice has already sounded. Do you like your head? The words fell. A head was removed. The teaching materials in teacher ghost's hands were also thrown away. I am dead. It wasn't until my death that I learned that he was the ogre Hannibal, the owner of the restaurant here, and the biggest ghost story in this school. Don't go near here, you will become unfortunate. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 638. After reading this prophetic text, which can be called a live broadcast of death, everyone fell into a daze. First there was the murderer, and now there's the ogre Hannibal. Damn it, this place is specially used to cultivate ghost stories. If they were watching it as fun before, now they are really scared. From the black writing, they could tell that a monster more terrifying than the murderer appeared in Scarlet University. Once you enter his restaurant, you will be trapped in the ghost realm restart and cannot escape. In the ghost realm, there is an extremely perverted evil ghost who likes to eat people's hearts and livers and use these ingredients to cook. How can a psychopath explain this? Unreasonable fear spread on these people's faces. The atmosphere suddenly solidified. At this time, art class direction. A man and a woman, the two handsome ghosts, were looking at the black writing displayed on the drawing board with a somewhat solemn expression. Lin Yan, what do you think? During this period, there have been too many evil ghost attacks at Scarlet University. I am considering whether to suspend school first, otherwise we may not be able to escape if we encounter this ogre. A schoolbelle with a ponytail and an exquisite dress who looked like a young lady looked at the man next to her and said worriedly. The man known as Lin Yan has a casual temperament, wears very ordinary clothes, and his appearance is at best good looking, which can be said to be unremarkable. Only the occasional flash of golden light in his eyes showed his extraordinariness. If Shen Jian were here, he would know that this man is the protagonist of the movie Copy Here, the son of the ghost Dr. Suji. Lin Yan rubbed the dragon pattern ring in his hand. There was a hint of cynicism between his brows, and the ghost realm was restarted. An extremely powerful evil ghost had really entered the Scarlet University. As a top ghost king himself, he naturally understands how difficult it is to restart the ghost realm. Most of the top ghost kings are unable to master this supernatural ability. Its rarity can be described in one sentence. If it wasn't there at birth, it won't be there again. Even he has not mastered this magical skill. If it can be swallowed, I don't know if it can be inherited. Lin Yan thought to himself. He didn't speak. But the number one brother next to him spoke up, "Sister-in-law, you underestimate brother Lin too much. Although this ogre looks scary, in fact, the killing pattern is very ordinary. According to the text written in black handwriting, this ogre the human demon will only appear in a fixed location, and the triggering conditions are single. As long as you ignore him and don't agree to anything, he won't be able to do anything to you. Hear this. Many students also feel that it is indeed not terrible. At best, he's a bit perverted. A ghost with a single murder pattern like this is nothing at all as long as he knows how to avoid it. Just thinking about it? Soon. The black handwriting began the second writing. The second Yin Cao Nether Ghost Envoy was found out. My name is Netherworld Ghost. When you guys read the sentence, I'm already dead. I am also a ghost of the underworld lurking in Scarlet University. I have been lurking here for half a year. I know what this precognitive ghost is. It is the precognitive ghost that caused Baikan district to become a no-go zone. I don't know why the precognitive ghost appears here, but I know that once chosen by the precognitive ghost, I will die. I find it incredible. My terror level is infinitely close to that of the Abyss level Ghost King. I can protect myself at Scarlet University. However, I am currently located in the security booth, far away from the teaching building. I don't understand why I was selected. But soon, I knew. The biggest weird story at Scarlet University is that the ogre Hannibal, his restaurant can actually move. I could clearly see that the security booth where I was turned into blood red, and an extremely terrifying figure walked out from the end. That's an ogre. The black writing is writing faster and faster. Saw this prediction. The ghost in the security booth was frightened. Ogre, can move. That evil ghost is not hunting in a fixed way, but randomly picking targets. Thoughts are spinning. Netherworld ghost suddenly discovered. The sky in front of me turned completely red. showing a bloody red color. And in the direction of the blood-red end, a slender figure walked over. Just as the prophetic ghost said, a blood-stained hemp rope was tied to his wrist. On the back of his hand, 7 scarlet ghost eyes were opened, dangling. Watch him. This moment. The ghosts in the underworld are feeling cold all over their bodies. I just feel as if the energy around me has been drained away. This supernatural oppression is definitely at the level of a top ghost king. In the entire Scarlet University, only their insidious judge and the dean of the college are sure to deal with it. But soon. He just thought of something. Judging from the precognition content of the precognitive ghost, this ogre has a single killing pattern. As long as you do not accept any of his invitations, you can avoid the killing pattern to the greatest extent. In other words, the situation is not at its most dangerous yet. Thinking. The appearance of the bloody figure gradually became clearer. Shen Jian's face was revealed. He held out his hand. He invited with a cold tone, "Little brother, I just prepared some fresh ingredients and want to invite you to my restaurant to eat together. What do you think?" Ghost. He dared not speak out in anger. "Nima's fresh ingredients are not my colleagues. You killed my colleague, took my colleague's organ parts, and used them to invite me to your banquet and eat with you. You are really talented in riding a horse. Calling you cruel, you still know how to invite, know how to banquet, and how to cook. To say you're not cruel, damn, you really shouldn't use the word cruel, it's more appropriate to describe you directly as pervert." No, I just had dinner." The ghost waved his hand and refused. Joke. Not to mention that the ingredients belonged to his colleague. Even if they didn't, who would dare to accept the ogre's invitation? Isn't this too long-lived? He still wants to keep a useful body and shine for Yinko in the future. You reject me. Shen Jian's eyes became dangerous. You dare to refuse a gourmet's invitation today, trample on the food tomorrow, and give me a knife the day after tomorrow. In order to let you understand the meaning of delicious food, I decided to cook you myself and fry the most tender parts of your body into foie gras. Shen Jian's face showed full malice. A gourmet's drive to fight for cooking is directly reflected on his face. Ghost. Damn it. Your paranoia about being persecuted by your hands annoys me. Is there anyone in this world who can put two unrelated things together and then sentence me to death? You have to die, right? Besides, you are struggling, your uncle. Haven't you noticed that your energy has been used in strange ways? With this idea of risking all the dead souls. The ghost is also like the teacher ghost, without consciousness. I am dead. The ogre's logical chain is invincible. This university has become his restaurant. He is eating. The black writing stops completely here. Apparently. With the death of the ghost, the supernatural powers of prediction can no longer function. See this scene. The students in the art class who had already mustered up their courage were now speechless, with only fear on their faces. Especially the number 1 younger brother of the protagonist Lin Yan, his face is even more painful. Because the 2 points he analyzed were all slapped in the face. Ogres can not only move at will. And there is obviously more than one eating pattern. He can openly invite others to the banquet and eat together. Once he refuses, he will become part of the ingredients. But if you accept it, it will be like a sheep among tigers. There is no reason to survive. I'm afraid it won't be used as a reserve food, locked up in the ghost realm, waiting for the other party's next meal. It can be said. Both options are unanswerable. Once it is encountered, it is basically hopeless. Think of this. Even though he was the protagonist, Lin Yan also felt a little troubled. He is confident that if he encounters an ogre, he can suppress it, but while suppressing it, the ogre can also use Ghost Realm Restart. Even if he cannot defeat him, there is still no problem in escaping. But if this is the case, it is equivalent to letting go of future troubles. Although he is not afraid, he cannot control the safety of others. Especially for his ill-fated school beauty fiancée, once she fell into the hands of this ogre, he couldn't imagine what would happen to her. Think of this. Lin Yan's face looked uncertain, but he still didn't take any action. Instead, he stayed with his fiancée. As time goes by, the numerous materials brought by the ogres were spread everywhere through the supernatural power of the parchment. Everyone knows that there is currently an extremely terrifying ogre hunting in Scarlet University and collecting relevant ingredients for the banquet. Once it is spotted, it will become part of the food. At the same time, in an office, the green-gray female ghost lay on the table, looking at the black writing on the parchment, and said with some depression and confusion, "Brother, the mission seems to be to make me become the ghost story itself, but this ogre is you. There was no chance of playing at all." She was a little broken. I don't know if Shen Jian was so excited that he forgot that she was performing the mission. The horror of the ogre Hannibal spread. The biggest ghost story in school is indeed well deserved. But what does this have to do with her? Hear this. Shen Jian pointed to one of the pages of parchment. We were taken back to the ogre's banquet restaurant here. We saw an outstandingly beautiful female ghost. She seemed to be a ghost story herself, but in the ogre's restaurant, she could only be reduced to a plate waiter. "No, aren't you on stage now?" Shen Jian said casually. Green-gray female ghost. The corners of her mouth twitched wildly. Very nice. If you hadn't said anything, I really wouldn't have seen my appearance. In the entire dozen pages of ghost stories, you left me one line. Really, you are quite a nice person. Be content, I'm not even a waiter. Qi Shan also felt comforted. The green and gray female ghost wants to cry but has no tears. No. Your comfort is quite wrong. She lay on the table and muttered, "Does this count as completing the mission?" Just saying. Less than a few minutes. There was a buzz from her cell phone. After seeing the content above, her eyes became more and more wonderful. Then he exclaimed, "It's done, it's really done, little brother, I passed the 11th level." She looked excited. I didn't expect that a little girl named Duan Pan who only appeared in one line could actually make more than a third of the teachers and students at Scarlet University think that she was a terrifying monster. This is unbelievable. She didn't seem to be doing much except carrying the plates. Why did it become a terrifying ghost story? To this, Qi Shan explained, it also depends on the owner when beating a dog. When the owner's terror reaches a certain level, even the people around him will automatically be put on a cruel filter. Not to mention that after Takato appeared all the way, not a single ghost could survive, and all became food. In this case, as soon as you appeared on the stage, there was a strong contrast. They will subconsciously think that you are also an extremely scary monster, so you can stay next to the ogre and be a dish server girl. Hear the words. The gray female ghost suddenly realized. There was clear stupidity in his eyes. Wait, are you comparing me to a dog? You don't want to hug your thighs? Looking at Qi Shan's I do expression, the gray female ghost hesitated for a second and slowly opened her mouth. Woof. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 639. The thighs are as deep as the sea. From now on, moral integrity is a passerby. Between dignity and death, the gray female ghost chose the third party without hesitation and became the pendant on the boss's leg. Qi Shan gave a thumbs up. Good. He has the talent to become a licking dog among ghosts. If you don't hold your thighs, you'd be a fool. At this time, Qi Shan seemed to have remembered something. He lowered his voice and asked, "Master, have you seen the protagonist here? Do we need to join the Celestial Temple and become the protagonist's lineup?" He was a little unsure about Shen Jian's thoughts. After all, this is an existence that is suspected to be the city god of the underworld. If it is true, then Shen Jian's level of terror is higher than that of the protagonist, and it is not certain who will conquer whom. Because of this, even if there was an opportunity to join the Tianshan Temple, he did not act without authorization, just to listen to Shen Jian's opinion. Hear the words. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Just now, he did use the ghost domain to detect Lin Yan, the protagonist of the copy of the movie here. The dragon pattern ring had a very strong dragon energy reaction. He knew that this was the lion's share of dragon energy. A full 40%. It is the favor given to the protagonist by world-weary ghosts and gods. According to the normal plot outline, when the supernatural game is rampant to a certain extent and has a serious impact on the people around the protagonist stops pretending. Through a series of coping methods, he finds out the behind-the-scenes instructions behind the supernatural game app and brings it to justice. Defeat and save Scarlet University. Put on a big wave. Whether it is the murderer or the sinister judge hiding behind the Scarlet University, it should be the protagonist's personal show-off plot. But now, the murderer is dead ahead of time. The new ghost story ogre took its place and became the biggest ghost story in this university. In order to protect his school beauty fiancée, the protagonist chose to stand still and miss the opportunity. And it didn't take away the dragon spirit from the protagonist. Because it makes no sense. The dragon energy was divided into 5 parts by world-weary ghosts and gods. In addition to the 40% of the protagonist's body, there are still 60% of the dragon energy scattered everywhere. Even if he recovers the dragon energy from the protagonist, he can't get a complete one. There is not much difference between recycling early and recycling late. But if it is recycled in advance, it will be equivalent to abolishing the protagonist, and the copy of the movie that was born based on the protagonist will also be completely destroyed. By then, it would be difficult for him to recover the complete dragon energy. Moreover, the protagonist also has a plot about world-weary ghosts and gods. This is his real purpose of entering the entertainment city this time and entering the 3rd place, Luo Fengtian. Compared with it, he can finally recycle the dragon energy. There's no rush. Shen Jian glanced at Qi Shan and said, "It doesn't matter whether we join or not." Qi Shan was stunned and explained, "Master, you may not know some things when you enter the official movie dungeon for the first time. Unlike the horror game dungeon, you can get the same settlement reward if you survive. The movie dungeon of Entertainment City is based on participation is ultimately calculated, and the biggest climax of a movie is the final stage, which is also the key to obtaining high ratings. The final stage of this 5-star movie copy is undoubtedly the battle between the Celestial Temple and the villain Yin Cao. If we don't join the two forces, our personal settlement evaluation will not be much higher." Hear this. Shen Jian chuckled, "It's smaller, the structure is smaller. There is no villain organization in this world. They are all ghosts, and they are all big families who love each other. How can we distinguish between decent and villains?" Qi Shan? Nanny. What are you talking about? The thriller game has clearly pointed out that Yin Cao is a villain organization and the final boss of this movie copy. Do you still want to forcefully correct it? Even if you have the heart of a bodhisattva, you still have to see if others appreciate it and whether they are willing to listen to you. He was a little confused. I don't understand Shen Jian's operation a bit. Are you planning to help those Yin Cao members correct their evil ways? Isn't this purely thankless? What's the use of doing this? Before Qi Shan could figure it out, the green-gray female ghost not far away exclaimed, "Brother, here it is, the mission for the 12th level of the supernatural game has appeared. Hey, this mission is so strange. I thought it would be so outrageous that we would kill a top ghost king like, I didn't expect to just go talk to the dean. Shen Jian was slightly startled. Dean of Scarlet University. Yes, the mission mentioned that I should go to the dean's office and talk to the dean. Even if the mission is completed, it is too simple. The difficulty is basically the same as the first 3 levels. The gray female ghost was a little excited. Although the Dean of Scarlet University is also a top ghost king, he is harmless. Without any reason, the dean will not attack a student like her. Just chatting, she felt that she could successfully complete it even without Shen Jian's help. However, at this moment, Qi Shan's face showed full seriousness. Don't you think there's something wrong? Has a problem? The problem is huge. It can be seen from the difficulty of the first few levels that without the help of experts, it is impossible for you to complete the task. In other words, the people behind the supernatural game app do not want anyone to pass the level at all. All will increase the difficulty little by little until the user dies before the 12th level. Qi Shan solemnly said. Under such circumstances, how can the task difficulty of the last level of the supernatural game be easy? It must be a level more difficult than killing the Abyss level Ghost King. Are you sure that the Dean of your Scarlet University is normal? In Kishan's view, the Dean of Scarlet University is definitely not normal. Either he is hiding his true face, or there is something like an evil ghost behind his back. Only in this way, the task in the 12th level of the supernatural game will be to talk to the Dean. He guessed that the biggest danger in this task was during the conversation. Then, he looked at Shen Jian and wanted to know what Shen Jian was thinking. The other side. Shen Jian smiled when he heard the gray female ghost's words. The smile is very charming. Appeared. After clearing the supernatural game step by step, the behind-the-scenes instigator, the undercover judge, finally showed up. And this judge is the Dean of Scarlet University. No matter what, he is also someone who has a significant relationship with the Dean. To know the result, he only had to go to the Dean's office and see how many people were there. Judge Yin Cao is right there. His previous guess was correct. Once someone is about to clear the supernatural game, the Yin Cao personnel will appear, either to induce the user to join the Yin Cao, or to destroy their humanity and recover the ghosts. Think of this. Shen Jian also showed a hint of excitement on his face. Come on, let's get there quickly, otherwise the Dean will be in a hurry. Shen Jian waved, his tone a little solemn. Green-gray female ghost. No. Why do I feel that you are more excited than me, a user of supernatural games? And didn't the little security guard say that this might be a trap, and the Dean might have some problems, so we just go up there? No need to make some preparations. I'm a little scared of you being like this. Is this really okay? The gray female ghost looked at Qi Shan and said hesitantly. Qi Shan. His facial muscles twitched slightly. He also intends to play it safe. But Shen Jian had already made his choice, and all he could do was follow. Think about it. Qi Shan suddenly thought of something and took out the parchment. This was what Shen Jian put here for him. He planned to predict a wave. However, for a long time, the parchment didn't respond either. Just as he was wondering, the black handwriting began to write. My name is Qi Shan. When you read this sentence, I swelled. I am overestimating my ability to use the power of the Great Lord Parchment to predict the future of the Great Him. This is blasphemy and an insult to him. Ah! Holy and noble, you should punish all those who do not have firm faith in you, and forgive me, the despicable person, who tried to pry into your secrets and made me offend you. I really deserve death. The black handwriting was written quickly. But it only appeared for a moment and then disappeared again. Qi Shan. He blinked and looked at the parchment's words that were so humble that they were so humble that he felt extremely shocked. At the same time, a feeling of guilt arose in my heart. He hastily put the parchment away. Followed. The other side. Under the leadership of the gray female ghost, Shen Jian quickly arrived at the building of the dean's office. Not in yet. They met the ghost Professor Suro, who came out. When she saw Shen Jian, her eyes looked a little strange, but she still said hello. It's only been a while now and we meet again. What are you doing here? The green-gray female ghost took the lead and said, we are here to see the dean. Professor, have you reported the supernatural game? She lowered her voice mysteriously. Professor, we suspect that the dean has a problem. We plan to resolve the matter of the supernatural game privately. However, hear this. Ghost Professor Suro asked in confusion, what supernatural game? Is it that app that is very popular among students recently? In an instant, Kishan, the green-gray female ghost's expression froze. Looking at Professor Ghost's expression in disbelief. Hey, are you kidding them? They had just told the ghost professor a few hours ago about the supernatural game. However, the other party looks like he doesn't know anything now. If the memory was erased, it would not make sense. After all, the other party still had memories of them. Shen Jian also narrowed his pupils slightly. Has a certain memory been changed? Even the ghost professor, who has the supernatural strength of an abyss-level ghost king, cannot resist the supernatural attack. He can even modify his memory and has no cognitive problems. It seems Judge Yin Cao is indeed here. Big fish caught. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 640. Looking at Ghost Professor Suro with a puzzled face, everyone present felt numb. A ghost king who could rival an abyss-level ghost king had his memory of supernatural games wiped out so quietly. This ability was astonishing. Even a player like Qi Shan, who has many dungeon experiences, feels like a thorn in his back at this time. This is the first time he has heard of the ghost who plays with his memory. The most important thing is that they don't know where the ghost professor's memory was erased. Is it the dean of this Scarlet University, or someone else? At this point, nobody knows. Think of this. The green-gray female ghost who was still close to Ghost Professor Suro suddenly jumped away with a start. Qi Shan took a few steps back without leaving any trace. Standing behind Shen Jian. Because they don't know if Professor Ghost has been given any hints. Once he gets angry, their two weak and helpless leg pendants will be killed in minutes. After finally holding on until now, they didn't want to collapse before dawn. To this, Ghost Professor Suro's cold and arrogant face also became solemn. She is an expert in psychology. Proficient in observing micro-expressions. It can be found that the green-gray female ghost had a very good attitude towards her before, and she wanted to tell her everything. But since she said she didn't know any supernatural games, the other party's attitude changed. Should she know? But she really didn't have detailed information about the supernatural game in her mind. All I know is that this is a game that young people like to play. Etc. At this time, Ghost Professor Suro also shrank her pupils. What did she want to do in the dean's office building? If there is nothing important, she would not be willing to come here. But now she couldn't even remember what she was doing. There was also the man who was suspected of being her brother-in-law. She remembered that she helped him in the murderer incident, but she also felt that something was wrong about the memory of that time. They would have certainly talked. But she actually forgot the content of the conversation. This is basically impossible. There was a moment of silence. Ghost Professor Suro said in surprise, "Did I lose a piece of memory?" Qi Shan. Gray female ghost. She said in surprise, Professor, do you remember? No, but I will speculate. I forgot to tell you that I am also a psychology expert, and my analytical skills are not to mention. Hear this. Shen Jian was also slightly surprised. Through just a few words and some micro-expressions, you can tell that you have lost part of your memory. This ability of observation, insight, and a large number of arguments is really amazing. No wonder he can become an expert in psychology by self-taught, and yet he is also a ghostly high school master with a bright mind. It's probably because of this that I haven't gotten married even at this age. Shen Jian thought secretly. He heard Suji say that her sister was 8 years younger than her. In terms of youth, he is at least 30 years old. Although in Li Gui's worldview, as long as the spirit is not weakened, time is of little significance. There is no difference between 8 years old and 80 years old. But for humans, this young age is already quite old. Those who are mature and rich can still be called royal sisters and MILFs. Those who have no money and are ugly just greet me directly from the old aunt. And Suro fits the first category. The imperial sister is full of style and the most beautiful professor. People chasing her are probably from Nanjing district to Baikan district. Thinking. Shen Jian nodded slightly. Ghost Professor Suro also fell silent. Speculating is one thing, knowing the truth is another. She never thought that she would be tricked. Not long after. She readjusted. Tell everything you know. I forgot the purpose of coming here, but I know that there is only one reason for me to come here, and that is to find the dean. I think you are right, the dean does have a problem. Just go and take a look and you'll find out. Shen Jian grinned. No hesitation. Went straight in. Others saw this. They also followed suit. Including Ghost Professor Suro. At this time. She looked sideways with her beautiful eyes. This little man was not very old, a whole age difference from her sister, but he lived in her sister's hospital. This was something that had never happened before. My sister never leaves patients to live in the hospital. Whether it is to avoid suspicion or for safety, this rule has never been broken. However, from the words of the green and gray female ghost, she heard that her sister had a very good relationship with this little boy, and her image to outsiders turned out to be that of a family member. How close is this relationship? The only thing she could think of was that her sister was eating young grass. But judging from the little boy's behavior, it seems that he is not trying to keep a pretty boy. On the contrary, he is very independent and extremely powerful. My sister cannot afford to support a top ghost king. All kinds of doubts appeared in her mind, which made her pay more attention to Shen Jian. Soon. The dean's office arrived. Shen Jian opened the door. The first thing he saw was the dean of Scarlet University sitting at his desk. The dean looked like a wealthy man at first glance. He looked to be in his 50s. He had his own Mediterranean at a young age. The light shone on his bald head, reflecting bright light. As the door was pushed open, the bald principal also immediately noticed the intrusion of Shen Jian and his party. His peripheral vision stayed on the ghost professor and the gray female ghost for a few seconds, and he frowned slightly. Suro, do you have anything else to do? It's not polite to lead this group of people into my office. The bald dean had a gloomy face. The terrifying supernatural pressure belonging to the top ghost king spread out, making everyone's face pale. The top ghost kings are already terrifying existences standing at the top of Wutong City. Each one of them is a named supernatural master. Even an abyss-level ghost king has to keep his tail between his legs in front of a being of this level. Dean, I'm not looking for you, it's my student who is looking for you. Ghost Professor Suro pointed at the gray female ghost and said calmly. She was almost certain that the problem with her memory was related to the dean in front of her. Oh, what's the matter? The bald dean said meaningfully. He saw that the female student had been reading on her phone since she came in. The background page displayed on the screen was very familiar to him. That's exactly the context in which paranormal games operate. And he also knew this female student. Because the other party's game mission for the 12th level was released by him personally. He stopped pretending and showed his cards. He is Judge Yin Cao. This Scarlet University was the place where he cultivated ghost stories and experimented with supernatural games. He found it unbelievable that a mere red-gray female ghost could pass the 11th level of a supernatural game, but it didn't matter, because everyone who passed the 11th level would eventually come to him. Then become a part of Yinko. Think of this. The bald dean looked at the gray female ghost with a sinister look, and a strange supernatural power suddenly descended upon her. Even though her mouth didn't move, a voice came into the consciousness of the gray female ghost. Kid, it's time to wake up. You are the ghost envoy of the underworld that I sent to lurk in Scarlet University. You are a member of the Yin Cao. Do you understand? Your task is to cooperate with me in sending out the invitation code for the supernatural game, so that more people can become users of the supernatural game, and send me the data and ghosts. The bald dean's voice was deep and filled with some kind of spirituality that wrenched his consciousness, completely filling the gray female ghost's brain. Just a moment. The gray female ghost was shocked all over. The pupils dilated a little bit. Then the other person's eyes shimmered. He murmured in a voice that only one person could hear, "It's really time to wake up. I am the ghost of the underworld. The purpose of lurking here is to cooperate with the judge and complete the experiment on the supernatural game. See it?" The bald dean smiled sinisterly. His supernatural ability can help him modify other people's consciousness. Coupled with the strength of a top ghost king, it can be said that even a top ghost king will be directly brainwashed and become a top ghost king as long as he chats with him for 5 minutes. A member of the underworld. He decided to brainwash everyone present and temporarily fill the shoes of the underworld ghosts killed by the ogres. As for Ghost Professor Suro, I can only say that she is unlucky. Originally, considering that she had overdrafted the supernatural and was seriously injured, he did not choose to brainwash her. He just cleared her of her understanding of the supernatural game. Unexpectedly, the other party came to her door again. It can only be said that she is destined to be a member of the Yin Cao. However, the bald dean was planning. Shen Jian on the field also looked at all this with strange eyes. Others may not have heard it, but he heard it exactly. He watched as the dean of the Scarlet University just said a few words and directly instigated the rebellion of the green-gray female ghost, making her believe from the bottom of her heart that she was the underworld ghost envoy of Yin Cao. To this, Shen Jian didn't know what to say. What qualifications do you have for a red-clothed fierce ghost to become a ghost envoy of the underworld? Don't you even think about this? Or is it that this kind of supernatural power that modifies cognition directly ignores all kinds of irrationality? Shen Jian was thoughtful. Then he saw the bald dean's eyes falling on him. An unknown supernatural force once again enveloped the whole place. No one could notice it except him. Think about it. Shen Jian stepped forward first, and mysteriously approached the bald dean's ear with a solemn look on his face. Long live Yinko. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 641. Director's Office. The bald dean looked at the group of people who broke into the office with pity, including a supernatural game user, a student, a small security guard, and a ghost professor. Except for Ghost Professor Suro, who possesses supernatural strength that can be called an abyss-level ghost king, the others are lower than the other. Even the user who participated in the supernatural game was just an ordinary red-clothed level ghost. The little security guard was even worse. His supernatural strength was only at the green level. The worst thing was the young man with handsome features, who didn't even have a supernatural aura. Those who didn't know it thought he was just an ordinary human being. With such a lineup, to be honest, they can't even participate in the selection of new members of the Yin Cao organization, let alone become the Nether Ghost Messenger. But who makes him short of people now? That damn ogre, who didn't know if he had some grudge against them, had uncovered all the ghosts hiding in the school, leaving him with no ghosts to use now. In this case, the only thing you can do is to make up for it. Think of this. The bald dean was a little angry and glanced at the crowd again. It feels more and more strange. As for how the grey female ghost passed the 10th and 11th levels, he has not figured it out until now, but he has successfully brainwashed her now, and the other party automatically assumes the role of the ghost for his use. Then, he asked in a strange way, "How did you pass the previous checkpoint and come to my side?" His words were still spoken in the world of consciousness. With the supernatural blessing of his top Ghost King level, even ghosts and gods cannot spy on this side. He can communicate with confidence. The green-gray female ghost explained, "Your Majesty Judge, it was the little brother who helped me clear the level. If he hadn't solved the murderer and created the terrifying and unusual story about the ogre, which gave me a reputation, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do it. Unable to reach the last level, I will finally be awakened by you, Lord Judge." Bald Dean. He was slightly startled. Then the pupils widened little by little. Bro. The only person at the scene who fit this image was the young man whose supernatural aura was so thin that he was on the same level as an ordinary human being. Is he the backer behind the cyan-gray female ghost? Damn it! How can this be? A top Ghost King who controls the Ghost Realm's supernatural powers may be on par with their sinister palace master. Why has he never heard of such an existence? Why did the other party choose to help a red-clad ghost? You're full after eating, right? He is your boyfriend. The bald dean couldn't sit still. He asked quickly. Fortunately, he didn't reveal his supernatural powers just now because of his arrogance, otherwise he would not dare to be his opponent in front of a top Ghost King of the same level. After all, Ghostland reboots are so rare. Even rarer than the supernatural in his consciousness. Having such a supernatural and powerful ghost is innately invincible. Whether he is about to die, is suppressed, or is poisoned by supernatural toxins, he can fully recover by restarting himself. As for the ghost domain restart, while restarting itself, you can choose the restart location at will, so as to avoid falling into the trap, and there is really no way to check and balance. If you want to kill a fierce ghost of this level, you can only use supernatural powers that are far superior to the same level to kill it at once. At least, he has no such ability. No. The green-gray female ghost told what happened exactly as it happened. Hear this. The bald dean felt chills all over his body. Because from this experience, he did not find any motives for Shen Jian. The other party seemed to simply want to help. But soon, he thought of a possibility. It's not that the other party has no motive, but the motive is too straightforward. That man, his target is the mastermind behind the supernatural game app, that is, the judge hidden in Scarlet University. In other words, the opponent's target from the beginning was him. Think of this possibility. The expression of the bald dean changed. Concentrate your mind quickly. Regarding the Yin Cao organization, and knowing that he, the judge, is hiding here, could this person be from the Tianshan temple? If this is the case, then his harvest from this trip will be too great. His identity has not been exposed, nor has his supernatural power been exposed. He only needs to talk to Shen Jian for a few minutes, and with the superposition of supernatural powers, he can still distort Shen Jian's consciousness and turn him into a ghost. With this thought, the bald dean looked ecstatic. How could he, a judge, turn a top Ghost King into one of his own today? Just thinking about it, he saw Shen Jian walking towards him. There was a trust me attitude on his face. Bald Dean? He looked suspicious. Why, you are really one of our own, do you want me to trust you? Is there any evidence? Just thinking about it? Shen Jian leaned close to his ear, lowered his voice, and activated Taishan King's divine ability and the words of ghosts and gods, long live Yin Cao. Bald Dean. Hear this. He was confused. Looking at Shen Jian in disbelief. Are you really one of your own when you are riding a horse? This is really a heifer that doesn't give birth, it's so awesome. Under the influence of Shen Jian's ghostly words, the Bald Dean believed Shen Jian's words on the spot. On the one hand, he didn't think that the heavenly temple had a top ghost king who could master the ghost realm's supernatural powers. On the other hand, Shen Jian tried so hard to find him because he either had a grudge or something important. Coupled with the phrase long live Yin Cao, what else can this person be if he is not one of his own? The organization treated him well. He actually sent such a powerful and top-notch ghost king to find him. This also gave him enough face. At this time, the Bald Dean looked excited. At the same time, everyone in the office was dumbfounded. Qi Shan. Ghost Professor Suro. Gray female ghost. In an office, no matter how quiet Shen Jian spoke, it was of no use. They all heard what was meant to be heard. Damn it! Don't scare us. Are you humming an undercover agent of the Yin Cao organization? Is this some kind of international joke? Don't forget how so many ghosts of the underworld died. It was you, the ogre, who came to kill them one by one with your own hands. Are you telling me now that you are actually with them? It's noisy. The melon was too big and they said they couldn't accept it? For a while, there was dead silence. Everyone froze in place. Seems a little overwhelmed. However, the Bald Dean ignored all this. He has regarded Shen Jian as a higher-ranking member of Yinko. He suspected that Shen Jian's rank was higher than his own as a judge, and he was probably at the level of Deputy Palace Master. As for killing the Netherworld Ghost Envoy, this is completely normal. They have spent so long with no results. Isn't it unreasonable for the senior management to kill a few more subordinates in anger? Think of this possibility. The Bald Dean asked, Sir, I wonder if you have any instructions when you come here. Hear this. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. The words of ghosts and gods were more useful than he imagined. Especially when the other party is already afraid of him, as long as there are no serious logical errors in what he says, the other party will not doubt whether it is true or false. The Palace Master is very dissatisfied with your progress. It's just a supernatural game, but you have spent so long on it. It's just a waste. Give me the source code. I will be responsible for everything here. Shen Jian said in a faint tone. The Bald Dean was startled. He frowned at first, and then thought about the way Shen Jian turned himself into the biggest weirdo in Scarlet University, and he felt a little enlightened. I see. This high-level person who landed by air and was suspected to be the Deputy Palace Master was showing him his strength and telling him that if he didn't have that ability, he shouldn't take this porcelain job. Moment. He reluctantly handed over a mobile phone. Sir, this is the terminal of the supernatural game app. Whatever you need to do, just publish it directly on it. Shen Jian took the phone. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. His eyes suddenly flashed with a dark luster. Then he patted the Bald Dean on the shoulder. I received an order for you to return to the headquarters. The Palace Master has a new task for you. Yes, sir. The Bald Dean said respectfully. Say it. He packed up his personal belongings, released the supernatural effect, and left directly. As for what happens next, that's not his business. What he has to do now is to return to the headquarters as soon as possible. When the Bald Dean left, Shen Jian did not stop him, but stood there with a strange smile on his face. The headquarters of the Yin Cao organization is very hidden, and its location changes every once in a while. Only senior personnel above the rank of judge know how to find the latest headquarters entrance based on clues. All he needed to do was wait for the bald dean to find the entrance to the Yin Cao headquarters. By then, the people of Yin Cao are his, the land of Yin Cao is also his, and the headquarters of Yin Cao is also his. He wants them all. The other side. Because the bald dean removed the supernatural power, the green-gray female ghost's modified consciousness returned to normal. She looked at Shen Jian in confusion. I want to cry but have no tears in my heart. Mommy. The little brother is actually a senior member of Yinko. This news is too exciting. She is now 18, is it still too late to join the Yin Cao? Expert. At this time. Qi Shan shouted tentatively. Shen Jian glanced at it. Gave him a look of contempt. The parchment immediately began to write words. My name is Qi Shan. When you read this sentence, I am already stupid to death. I even suspected that the great him had his consciousness modified. What a low-level mistake this was. Even my 90-year-old grandfather would not be so blind. I am guilty of questioning the great and noble him. I want to dig out my own eyes to atone for this. What use do I have for these eyes that cannot see the divine? Qi Shan. That's too much. I am indeed ashamed of doubting the master, but what kind of drama are you trying to add to me? Okay. Shen Jian waved his hand and took back the parchment. I tried the terminal phone with the supernatural app in my hand again, and it was fast. The supernatural game app on the green-gray female ghost's mobile phone was automatically deleted. See this? She realized it later. Huh? Disappeared. I won't have to be forced to play this kind of life and death game in the future, right? Brother, you scared me to death just now. I really thought you had a reaction, and I was wondering if it was too late to join Yinko now. Qi Shan's mouth twitched slightly. Your licking ability is better than blue. It's not that you have no moral integrity, you've even lost your sense of good and evil. But when he thought that the other person was a ghost, not a human being, this view of good and evil was normal. Qi Shan became even more heartbroken. There is a sense of déjà vu as if the master is starving to death. The other side. Watching this scene, Ghost Professor Suro looked at Shen Jian with even more strange eyes. She only said thank you, but other thoughts came to her heart. Ghost Professor Suro. Current status, excited, exciting, exciting. Favorability, 56, familiar. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 642. At the same time. Scarlet University other locations. Players among the student team are also waiting for news. Since triggering the plot mission and having the special effect of add 30 initial favorability, they have infiltrated the Scarlet University, either pretending to be outsiders, or applying for jobs as cleaning and security personnel. But today, they regretted it terribly. They can only vent their helplessness in the chat interface. Help someone, what the hell is Hannibal the Ogre? How can such a frightening character become a legend? Where's the protagonist? Why doesn't the protagonist take action? Isn't this the best time to show the role of the protagonist, pretending to be a slap in the face? Why has no one gone to deal with this ogre? Who is related to the protagonist? Has anyone gone to see what the protagonist is doing? Is it possible that he is still acting like a coward at this time? Howls arose. All the players trapped in Scarlet University were in tears. Lian Cheng, Thank you for the invitation. I am in the art department and I am currently staring at the protagonist. The protagonist has no intention of taking action and just guards his school beauty fiancée. According to my judgment, the protagonist is not sure of solving the cannibal who controls the restart of the ghost land. The devil is afraid of arousing the enemy, so he will not take action. Sister Lan, my intelligence department also received the highest order from the protagonist. He is planning to let members of the Temple of Heaven sneak into Scarlet University to find out the information about the ogres. There is no doubt that the protagonist did not take action this time. Plan should be prepared to make a plan first. Sister Lan, you don't need to worry too much. Even if the ogre eats, it will not eat up Scarlet University all at once. At most, everything will return to normal by tomorrow. See this. None of the players knew what to think. The protagonist of the growth stream is just bad. There must be many enemies in a place that the protagonist cannot deal with. Like an underworld organization, like an ogre. At this time, the protagonist needs to level up again and come back to beat these enemies violently. As for this period, they can only resign themselves to fate. At this time, a scarlet panel emerged. Story mission, disintegrate the supernatural game app, completed. Task rewards have been distributed. Note, this reward is integrated into the settlement interface and can be claimed by clearing the copy. Current mission completion, 100%. Contributors, King Yama, Mr. Chi. Main contributor, King Yama. Completion, 100%. It was detected that the player completed the plot mission in advance, disrupting the plot, and special rewards have been distributed. Initial favorability at 30, solidified. It was detected that the other players did not participate in the mission, and the special effects have been recycled. Lines of scarlet words continued to emerge. See this. All players were dumbfounded. Everyone stared. Eyeballs are about to fall off. Damn it! The plot mission that just came out this morning is now completed? What is the efficiency of riding a horse? If they are not mistaken, this should be a long-term mission. According to their understanding, horror games did not think that they had the possibility to complete the mission at all. It was a situation of death and no life at all, so they gave them the special effect of add 30 initial favorability in advance, so that they could rely on it. With this good impression, he establishes a good relationship with the protagonist, joins the Celestial Temple, and gets protection. After that, with the help of the protagonist's power, we can find out the mastermind behind the supernatural game app and dismantle it. This is the correct mission guide. But now, the task was completed ahead of schedule. Ended by 2 players. Wrong. Judging from the prompts on the game interface, to be more precise, this task was completed by Shen Jian alone. The 100% task participation rate is the best proof. Think of this. Everyone was in an uproar. With their own efforts, they completed a mission that required long-term efforts from all their players. Gan. Could you be any more humming outrageous? You are also a human being, why can you be so different? Chen Duxiu didn't even show off. Next moment. On the chat interface, 99 plus messages flooded the screen. Boss 9999. Boss is awesome, Salin Hey. Please take me with me so I can warm the bed. Go away, my man, that's fine too. People's hearts are not ancient. What's wrong with the world now? Half of the people are flattering in the game. It's too much. Do the other half have no skills? They don't understand flattering. At this time, the chat interface suddenly changed into the shape of Shen Jian. There was nothing but compliments. For a long time. Seeing that Shen Jian didn't respond, the enthusiasm of these people faded a bit. He turned to harass Shen Jian's private messages. There are not a few people who are sober. They all asked about this matter. Sister Lan at Mr. Chi, what's going on, How could you have caught the mastermind behind this in just one night's work? Mr. Chi, actually, to be precise, it only took us less than a few hours. Of course, don't look at me, look at my contribution. You will know that I am just a soy sauce. I only have a guaranteed 1% contribution except for the curing effect of initial favorability at 30, there is nothing. Sister Lan. Lian Cheng. Players. Is this guy showing off? Mad, definitely showing off. The special effect of initial favorability at 30 can be used in any copy. Is this an inappropriate magical skill? Not to mention the guaranteed rewards for participating in plot missions. Even if there is nothing afterwards, this 5-star dungeon will still make a lot of money. This means that as long as the player does not commit suicide, jumps on other people's heads, and has the blessing of initial favor, entering any dungeon will have a huge advantage over other players. Even if he dies, he can be the last one to die. Just think of these hidden benefits. They were so envious that their molars almost broke. Damn you bastard, you actually eat alone. If they had known that following Shen Jian would bring such great benefits, they would have followed him shamelessly. Apart from anything else, they are definitely more experienced than Mr. Chi when it comes to being social animals. Even Wang Lan, who had already joined the Tianshan temple, regretted it at this time. Half a day ago, she seemed to have even advised Shen Jian not to be impulsive. Thinking about it now, she wanted to put her head in the toilet. When she said this, Shen Jian couldn't be smiling and watching at the same time. How powerful is this man? She completed the plot mission alone. According to her relevant information, the person behind the supernatural game app was suspected to be a sinister organization, and the person responsible for this matter was at least a top Ghost King level existence. If you want to dismantle this app, you must face a real top Ghost King. Let alone a 4-star player, even the top 5-star player cannot do this. However, Shen Jian did it. It only took a few hours. This ability shocked her. The other side. Shen Jian glanced at the 99+ chat interface and then glanced at the harassed private message. Look back. Return to Sue's medical center. This time he didn't catch a few moneyless ghosts, but he collected another dragon spirit. This time it's a 10% share. The dragon energy is not parasitic on the ghost, but remains unclaimed. Shen Jian knew that this was most likely an invisible benefit to the protagonist. The dragon-patterned ring in the hand of the protagonist Lin Yan itself contains 40% of the dragon's energy. Adding this 10%, together it is half of the dragon's energy. By then, the protagonist can unlock the weak dragon energy sensing ability, start to search for the remaining dragon energy, recruit troops, and embark on the path of devouring ghosts and obtaining a large number of special supernatural powers. Once the entire dragon's energy is fully recovered, it will be the final battle to advance to the level of ghosts and gods and defeat the Yin Cao organization. It can be said, although the world-weary ghosts and gods do not specifically interfere with the protagonist, in general, the plot is the same. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Then he sensed the location of the bald dean who was marked by him. The other party is still on his way. Already left Baikan district. Entered the boundaries of the DC area. But he did not return to Yinko headquarters immediately. Instead, he walked around, seeming to be wandering around and looking for directions. To this, Shen Jian didn't care. Regardless of whether the judge noticed something unusual about him or not, the day the other party found the headquarters of Yin Cao was when he came to Yin Cao. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes also showed some excitement unconsciously. He was thinking about how to find the world-weary ghost and god in the future. Yin Cao is a road. The Celestial Temple is also one. Yin Cao is responsible for large-scale searches throughout the territory. As for the Temple of Heaven, perhaps you can get the words out of the protagonist's mouth. From the plot summary he knew, the location where the protagonist went up the mountain was an obvious clue. The world-weary ghosts and gods are most likely staying there. Certainly. Now that the protagonist has gone down the mountain and the plot has begun, no one knows whether the world-weary ghosts and gods are still there. The possibility of falling short is equally high. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. You still have to look for it first. If that doesn't work, you can only go to the protagonist. He must take back Luo Fengtian's authority from the world-weary ghost and god. If there was really no other way, he would have no choice but to capture the protagonist, forcefully destroy this copy, and cause a catastrophe in Luo Fengtian. He still didn't believe that world-weary ghosts and gods dared to avoid him. With this thought, a night of silence. The next day, Shen Jian just woke up. I heard the sound of conversation coming from outside. Open the door and take a look. The ghost Professor Suro, who I just met twice last night, has arrived here early in the morning. This intellectual female professor is still wearing an old attire today, but without a coat. Under the white shirt is wrapped the capital that ordinary women envy, which forms a sharp contrast with the slender waist. The black hip-hugging skirt reaches just above the knees, and the long and fair legs are paired with flesh-colored stockings, which makes people unable to help but feel a kind of primitive desire. How many men in this world can resist the temptation of such an intellectual female professor in uniform? At this time, saw Shen Jian coming out. Ghost Professor Suro also turned around. His lips moved, but no sound came out, but Shen Jian understood the meaning. We meet again, my young husband. Shen Jian. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 643. Seeing Ghost Professor Suro, a hint of surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. Although this intellectual female professor used her supernatural powers excessively during the battle with the murderer and her ankles were frozen, in fact, it was not a big problem. Not to mention that she is a ghost king comparable to an abyss-level ghost. Even if she is just a red-clothed level ghost, her injuries are not fatal. At most, she can only recover for a few days, and it will not affect her normal actions at all. But in reality, the other party came to his sister's house the next day. It seemed that he planned to stay. And this playful teasing is very different from her own image and career. If the teachers and students of Scarlet University knew that the most beautiful female professor in their eyes would talk to a man in such a greasy tone, their jaws would probably drop. Thinking. Ghost Dr. Suji introduced, Xiao Shen, this is the sister I mentioned to you. She is a female professor at Scarlet University. Because something happened last night and she was injured, she will also stay here during this period. Down. You, know each other. Seeing her sister acting as if she knew Shen Jian, the beautiful woman was a little suspicious. It always felt like there was something hidden from her between the two of them. I've met him twice, but I'm not familiar with him. Ghost Professor Suro said with a strange look in her eyes. But sister, there is a little man living here. Could it be that he is hiding in the golden house? Her eyes swept over Shen Jian and Suji, and her eyes became more vivid. I thought Shen Jian lived in the small clinic below the medical center, but he didn't expect that he actually lived at home. The relationship between the two seemed closer than she had guessed. Bah, a dog's mouth can't spit out ivory. Hear this. The beautiful woman's cheeks were slightly red, and there was a bit of panic in her eyes. She explained, Xiao Shen is temporarily living here because he is injured. He is a professor, and what is he thinking about all day long? Suro was non-committal. Go and clean up the room on your own. This house only has 2 bedrooms, but there is also a utility room that can be used as a bedroom after tidying up. When passing by Shen Jian, Ghost Professor Suro said in a voice that only Shen Jian could hear, you lied to my sister. Say it. She just walked away minding her own business. Shen Jian. Looking at Suro, who started to clean the room, his eyes looked strange. His eyes moved. Ghost Professor Suro. Current status: pleasure, excitement, curiosity, exploration, gossip. Favorability: 58, familiar. See this. Shenjian showed a bit of surprise. 58 points of favor? Even if it is a life-saving favor, the favorability level will not rise so quickly. After all, the female professor was not in a desperate state at that time. His attack was just the icing on the cake. Logically speaking, it can be increased to 40 points of favorability, which is already a very obvious effect. 58 points, high. They have almost reached the stage of mutual ambiguity. And Suro seemed to be sure that he had a relationship with Suji. She called her brother-in-law when they met, and now she planned to live here. If she said she didn't have any thoughts, Shenjian wouldn't believe it. Violently, Shenjian thought of the introduction on the favorability panel. The ideological and moral standards are extremely low. Is it possible? Shenjian was thoughtful. There are some guesses. Moment. Seeing Suro cleaning up the house, Shenjian was not prepared to help. Instead, he came to the kitchen. At this time, the beautiful woman was still preparing meals as usual. As if knowing that her sister was coming, she had been wearing home clothes, and today she specially chose a simple floral waist dress, which was not too revealing but also showed off her figure, perfectly showing off her mature style. Think about it. Shenjian walked into the kitchen. He gently put it on the beautiful woman's shoulder and said with a smile, "Aunt Ji, it smells so good." The beautiful woman paused for a moment, and then focused on the ingredients in front of her as if nothing had happened. She said without any abnormality in her tone, "Smooth talk, they are all the same dishes, why haven't I seen you say they taste good before?" "That's different." I said, "Aunt Ji, you smell so good. You used the same shower gel for me, but I don't have this smell. This is the fragrance that belongs to you, Aunt Ji." Shenjian leaned closer. The tone was even more ambiguous. The hot air blew out from the wings of her nose, making Suji's neck itch. This level of intimacy is basically impossible except for real couples. Looking at the beautiful woman who still didn't resist, the smile in Shenjian's eyes grew stronger. Although his relationship with the protagonist's mother still stops at holding hands, and even holding hands requires a reason, this is already a huge improvement. Now, she won't resist violently even to this level of intimacy. On the contrary, it's a bit intoxicating. Apparently, Suji also discovered that the behavior between the two was a bit too close. Standing in front of the chopping board, her cheeks turned redder. She pursed her lips where Shenjian couldn't see her, feeling the smell coming from Shenjian's body as well, with a somewhat complicated look in her eyes. It had been a long time since she had experienced such a warm scene. She always thought that she would not need a man until she died. But now she finds that having a man in her life doesn't seem to be a bad thing. It could rejuvenate her dry heart. After spending some time with Shenjian, she felt as if she had become a lot younger. This was also the reason why she didn't push Shenjian away immediately. She was really immersed in this warmth. But suddenly, she seemed to feel something. His face turned red with embarrassment. He raised his head and glanced at Shenjian. Shenjian moved his position so that his back was sunken in. His eyes were innocent and he said, "Aunt Ji, why are you looking at me like this?" "Suji." She turned her head back silently. Because she felt an unusual heat. This kind of heat does not come from body temperature, but from something else. As a widow, she naturally knew what it was. I also saw Shenjian showing it off in the bathroom. But in this situation, even she felt completely ashamed. She pushed Shenjian. He looked away from the kitchen in the direction outside the kitchen and whispered, "Go away quickly, I have to prepare food, and my sister is still here, be careful that she sees it. Hear this. Shen Jian leaned into her ear again and said, Aunt Ji, you are saying that if there is no one, I can. Suji said nothing. Cutting vegetables carefully and very slowly. The touch behind her made her face turn red and her eyes were a little confused. The breath he exhaled also changed from a wisp to a ball. See this. At the most critical moment, Shen Jian stopped moving. Seeing the confusion mixed with some astonishment in the beautiful woman's eyes, Shen Jian walked out of the kitchen. I want to relax and dream. I'm too relaxed now, so I won't let him touch me later. He would not do such a thankless task. Out of the kitchen. On the sofa. The ghost Professor Suro, who had finished cleaning up at some point, sat on the sofa and looked at Shen Jian, who came out with strange eyes. She glanced down at the time. 30 minutes. A top ghost king, suspected to be one of the strongest ghost kings in Wutong City, stayed in the kitchen for 30 minutes. Could he still help with cooking? This is obviously impossible. However, she didn't hear any inappropriate sounds, so she wasn't sure what the two of them were doing inside. But the relationship is ambiguous for sure. Otherwise, how could her sister let the other party stay inside for so long? Even if she goes in, she will be kicked out. Let's talk. She spoke. See this. Shen Jian nodded slightly. Also sat down. He wanted to know what the protagonist's aunt wanted to do. I have also heard about you from my sister. You are quite good at creating opportunities. You are a hero who saves a beautiful woman, but you are also poisoned and can only stay in the hospital. What do you want to do? My sister is just an ordinary ghost doctor. There should be nothing worth worrying about. Suro looked serious. Observing Shen Jian's micro-expression. Don't you know what I want to do? As you said, there is nothing worthy of my concern about Aunt Ji, so isn't my purpose very clear? Shen Jian smiled. There is no hiding it, and there is no need to hide it. Now that Suji's favorability score is about to exceed 80 points and reach the intimacy stage, it doesn't matter even if the protagonist's aunt tells her. After all, this is nothing shameful. He is single and she is a widow, but there is no moral violation between them. Speaking of which, I bet he has a lot on his mind. You are honest, but aren't you afraid that people outside will find out and say that my sister eats young grass, keeps a pretty boy, or that you eat soft rice? It is true that you two do not violate the bottom line of morality, but in the eyes of others, in my eyes, this is a matter of ideological and moral misconduct. Said. Ghost Professor Suro lifted her feet, straightened them, and placed them on Shen Xiang. Toes kicked. There was unusual excitement in his tone. Shen Jian? Looking at the jade feet wrapped in flesh-colored stockings in front of him, Shen Jian subconsciously glanced in the direction of the kitchen. Then she looked at Suro with a strange look on her face. He seemed somewhat sure that this intellectual female professor's ideological and moral standards were extremely low, which aspect he was referring to. You are an ideological and political teacher, what do you think? Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. This is a test of his character. He somewhat admired this female professor for daring to take the initiative to seduce him. I think. Ghost Professor Suro sat over and was close to Shen Jian. She pointed at Shen Jian's chest with her jade hands. Her intellectual face with black-framed eyes shone with an inexplicable ruddy color. Did you know that people who talk about morality all the time are often the least moral people? See this. Shen Jian stretched out his hand for a hug. No hesitation. Kissed him directly. He doesn't know whether other people's morals are low or not. But Shen Jian knew. His moral quality is really not high.